and welcome to the last special bonus episode of the year before we kick off season 3 next week. If you haven't listened already, I've posted a top 5 books and a top 5 TV shows of 2022, and this will be the top 5 movies of 2022. Like the last 2 episodes, these will consist of new movies in 2022 and also movies that were just new to me in 2022. These will also be fairly mixed in terms of genre, so good job, Kelsey. It was a little hard to pick my top 5 this year since I haven't really watched a ton of movies. Just haven't really been to a movie theater very often anymore after, 2020. And quite a few of the ones that I did watch were not really top 5 material and just, movies I watched. But I think I put together a pretty good list, so let me know. My top 5 favorite movies of 2022, and maybe a sort of particular order, but not really a super particular order, is Everything Everywhere All at Once, Coda, Spider-Man No Way Home, Do Revenge, and El Camino. Let's dive into a super quick bonus episode. First up is Everything Everywhere All at Once. Man, this was a fantastic movie. I watched it on the plane on the way back from my honeymoon, and I was crying. I was holding onto my husband's arm, and I was really just trying to play it cool in a plane full of people on a super long flight. I think I played it cool. Everything from the acting to the story to the fight scenes to the cinematography was just outstanding. I was so angry at myself for waiting so long to watch it. I'd love to watch it again because I'm sure it's one of those movies that you can just find something new upon rewatch for sure, and I will probably be checking it out in the next coming days again because I have some more time off to fill. But yeah, I really loved it. It might actually be my favorite movie of the year because it was just so freaking good. Next up is Coda. Coda was one of those movies that stuck with me a very long time after I watched it. I mean, putting it on this list alone had me, rewatching that scene towards the end of the movie where she's singing to her family, over and over again on repeat, because it's just a phenomenal scene. And then I was just Googling more clips from it, and then I was like, why, I should just rewatch this movie again. It was just such a good film, and it was really beautiful, and it had me crying, it had me laughing. I was on the edge of my seat trying to find out what's happening next. It was just such a good movie, and it was really a fascinating perspective to kind of dive into, an interesting topic for sure, and I really couldn't stop talking about the movie afterwards. People probably were really annoyed about it, like my husband. The lead actress, Emilia Jones, she did a fantastic job in both acting and singing, which apparently she had never sung before this movie, so to me that was really, really impressive. I loved every second of this film, and I highly, highly, highly recommend it. Between Coda and Ted Lasso, I mean, getting an Apple TV Plus subscription, or whatever you call it, is totally worth it, in my opinion. Next up is Spider-Man No Way Home. Since Tom Holland first appeared in the Civil War as Spider-Man, he has been my favorite Spider-Man, hands down. I've talked about this before, but he is the perfect Peter Parker, and he is the perfect Spider-Man, and no one before him has been able to do both as well as he has. I still stand by that. However, the only thing that could possibly top him is bringing back Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield to reprise their roles, and, this movie it does that. So, I loved it. I really, really loved this next portion of Tom Holland's Spider-Man. It was really, really good. And yes, it could have been, considered to be fan service, bringing back all these characters that we know and love. But I think it was done so well that it didn't feel like fan service. And honestly, I wouldn't even care even if it did feel like it, because it was so good. And I loved seeing everybody again. And I loved their dynamics. And I loved it. I loved everything. To be fair, this movie really did change things in Peter's world. So was it really fan service if it helps drive the plot forward, or is it really just something that's awesome that happened? And I'm going to go with it's something that's awesome that happened. I thought Tom Holland did an amazing job in this movie, and I can't imagine where we're going to be going next. And I'm still super excited about the MCU, and Spider-Man, honestly, is a really big part of that. Between that and Thor, I'm really excited about these next chapters. And, all the TV shows have been really fun, too. Okay, so next up is Do Revenge. I wasn't sure what the last two movies on this list were going to be, and I went back and forth with a few different movies, but I ended up including Do Revenge because honestly, I think it's a super fun, super rewatchable kind of movie, and not only did I enjoy it, but I genuinely had my expectations blown away. It far exceeded any expectation I had. And I was really pleasantly surprised with how much I liked Do Revenge. It was really good. It had great twists. It had great scenes. I liked the writing. I liked the actresses and everybody else in the film. And yeah, there were some things I didn't quite like about it, but I think it has great potential for being added into my rotation of movie to put on in the background while I do chores. And that's really the reason why I put it on this list, because not only was it enjoyable to watch, but I think it is one of those movies that you can rewatch over and over again and still find it, amusing and still enjoy it. I loved it. I'm not ashamed to admit it or to include it in this list. I think it was really good for what it was and for more than what it was, if that makes sense. And because, Maya Hawke and Camila Mendes were great in it. So, that alone. And also Sarah Michelle Gellar was in it. Not enough, but she was in it. And that's really all we could ask for in 2022. And finally, we have El Camino. I almost included Thor, Love and Thunder instead, because I did genuinely love that movie, especially the Bow God. It was so cute. But I will say that I chose El Camino for basically two reasons. The first is that, it's going to be adding a little bit more variety to this list since I already did an MCU film for this movie, or for this movie list. So adding, a kind of a TV movie, I thought would be better. And the second reason, and probably more importantly, was it was genuinely the perfect movie ending for Breaking Bad. Like I had said in the last episode when I did my top TV shows of 2022 list thing, I had talked about Breaking Bad because it was on the list, and I think Breaking Bad ended perfectly. It was the perfect end to a movie. It had enough closure to make you feel like this is great. It wrapped a lot of things up. I think the way that they chose to end things made a lot of sense. It followed a lot of arcs. It was, it was perfect. However, that being said, you still want more, you still want to be in that world, even though it did have a really good ending, and they didn't really need to pick anything back up, I don't think. But if you were wondering what happens to Jesse at the end, El Camino picks right back up where we left him, which is fleeing that compound. So we start right into the thick of things, and it just goes from there. And I love that we got to see more characters from the show popping up. I love that we get to see how Jesse's trying to cope with moving forward after everything that's happened to him. And then we just got, that much more of the Breaking Bad world in general. I really loved the movie, and after finishing Breaking Bad, I was really glad that it had the same tone as the show. The writing felt the same, the characters felt the same. It felt like we were literally just placed right back into that world, and it was such a seamless transition from the show into this movie, even though it, in the real time it came out 6 years later. But for me, I had literally just finished watching the show, so it was perfect. It didn't feel off, it didn't feel like fan service, it didn't feel like it was weird, or there were things that I was like, would that character really have done that? Like, obviously, they looked a little bit older than they were in the previous, episode, but I thought they did a fantastic job of including almost everybody in the show and tying up some, I guess I'll call them semi-loose ends, since they weren't completely loose ends. But yeah, I thought they did such a good job, so that is my final movie of my list. And if you would like to hear my thoughts on these movies that I have mentioned, you can listen to For Everything Everywhere All at Once, Season 2, Episode 13, for Coda, Season 1, Episode 30, for Spider-Man No Way Home, Season 1, Episode 27, for Do Revenge, Season 2, Episode 12, and for El Camino, well, you just keep a lookout for next year because I am definitely going to be talking about this one more in depth. And that is going to conclude the last episode of 2022 and of Season 2. Thank you all so much for hanging in there and listening to me rant about all these books, TV shows, and movies. I really appreciate every single listen. And as always, please follow me on Facebook and Instagram and even Tumblr at Mixed Media Reviews Podcast. Please leave a comment and let me know what you think, or even leave a suggestion for a future episode. You can find me anywhere you find your podcasts, probably. So please join me in the new year where I'll be starting with a book to review. Have a wonderful rest of the day, the year, and the night. Have a safe New Year's Eve. Bye!